If you want to start or scale your property development business to 8 figures and beyond, then you're in the right place. This is the Property Experts Podcast with Ben Richards and Jack Jiggins, two serial entrepreneurs bringing weekly insights from our award-winning businesses. In these podcasts, you'll learn how we found, funded and delivered over £80 million worth of property in the last 6 years, with templates you can use, deal analysis and deep dive discussions that will help you build your businesses successfully. We hope you'll enjoy.
Hello, happy Friday, everyone. I hope you have all had a good week. You may notice that I am flying solo today. Ben is on a family holiday, so I'm manning the fort. And if you were able to watch last week's session, we did a full session on our company reviews, and we actually ran out of time. So this is part 2 of our internal company reviews. We're pulling back the curtain on what we share with our internal teams, or almost all of what we share. And we're going to be going through our surveying business and then also our privately run HMO business, which I run with my brother. So without further ado, let's get cracking. I am doing all things, including tech and sharing. So please do bear with. Obviously, ask any questions at any point in the session. We love live questions. The reason we do this live is so that we can answer questions live. So if you've got a bugbear, a bottleneck, or a question that's cropped up this week, please do send it in on whatever channel you're on, and I should be able to pick it up and answer it while we are live. If you're a podcast listener, it's the 21st of August, and this is a special episode, like I said, behind the scenes. So every quarter, our company does this. Well, actually, it's sort of twice a year now. We've done it quite a lot, but it's basically almost like an overall company review. Every business, every person, every employee, every fundamental part of those businesses get to take a look at where we were, where we are, and where we're going, specifically on each company. And make sure you get your questions in. I really want loads of questions today. I love questions. Before we delve into that, and as part of a team group thing that we're doing this summer, we do a charity event every summer. I think this is the 4th year running. We are splitting into 2 groups, a walking group and a cycling group. And we're fundamentally, the walkers are going to be walking a marathon for charity, for Mind charity. And then the cyclists are going to do a cross Oxfordshire tour around all of our sites, which I think is actually about 70 miles. And we've got a few people that are keen at cycling and a few that are not. But always a really good team bonding session every summer. But what we actually love is supporting Oxfordshire Mind, who's a local charity to us. So we like the locality, and we obviously like the purposes that they're delivering. Last time we did this exercise with paddle, actually, we did 17 hours straight of paddle. The Oxfordshire Mind team actually sent us a breakdown of everything that we had raised and what that went towards, which was amazing to see people actually putting funding into the right things, because obviously a lot of these charities nowadays, you don't know where those funds go. If you haven't joined us before, we jump on every week. We share the highs and lows of business, and our goal is to deliver 1,000 homes, which is £1 billion worth of property. We do all of our business structures in the development company, the HMO investment company, the social housing stuff by partnering with investors. We've had some really interesting conversations this week because we've got quite a lot going on and quite a few things open, from ranging from second charge finished assets all the way to development deals, and then recapitalizing a portfolio. So if you're out there and you're listening and you've got an interest in getting into property, maybe you might not have the time, expertise, or you want to learn, reach out to us. This slide is a bit old, actually, but we have some new and exciting things live, including our surveying business. We are in the sort of process in the midst of some growth capital. We've actually been offered a facility with our bank, but we'd much rather work with personal people if we can. But yeah, open in XP surveys if you want to reach out and inquire. We have tons of referrals, associated businesses that we've tried and tested before that we would highly recommend. And as a result, we have a introductory referral where we benefit, you benefit. Sorry, I'm just checking. I am actually live on our YouTube channel, which we are. So if you want to know about furniture, brokers, all of these are like accounting and bookkeeping and finance management tools have been imperative to our business and to get us where we are today. But anything out, just reach us out, drop a comment saying referral for this section or that section, and we will come back to you and recommend a business, a service, or a product. So on to the review day. So Ben, well, to be fair, and Heather will be listening to this, she does the bulk of pulling this together. But Ben and I and my brother Rob, and now Trevor, who's more of a senior member of the team, the leadership team in XP Surveys, pulled together almost like a very informal, a bit of fun presentation twice a year to get everyone in one room to able to open up to ask some questions. What we love about this session is there's ideas, there's hive minding. It opens up people's minds into the businesses that they might not be operating in. And essentially, there's loads going on. We don't know what we don't know outside the linear role. If we've got a surveyor, where does that project end up? If you've got an architect, what do we actually end up delivering? So we like to show snippets of those projects all the way through. And last week's live, we covered off Aura and XP Property in length, an hour session that was. So if you're an aspiring architectural business or an aspiring developer, make sure you go and watch that episode. But today, buckle in, we're going to watch, or buckle up, we're going to watch through the sort of progress update of XP Surveys. There's some interesting numbers in there for our service-based business, including one that I saw earlier today, which is our gross profit margin has increased by 70% in the last 6 months. And also sharing about Central Suites, which not a lot of people know we do, which is our privately run HMO portfolio, but also a self-proclaimed lettings business. So let's get cracking. We did share this last week, but basically the chronological, shall I even try and say that again? Third time lucky? No, I won't. Hopefully there's some people laughing there. I can't pronounce the word, but hopefully you know what I mean. The process of our businesses is in an ecosystem and a cycle of a project. I really want to give it another go. Chronological? No. Done. See you later. Ship has sailed. Won't be saying that word again today. But the XP Surveys is the starting point. So when you acquire a site, a surveyor to get a measured building and topographical surveys first. Then we have Aura Architecture, the design phase. Then we have, design and planning. Then XP Property for the delivery. Now, XP Property might actually be the owner of the site, so they might be the one instructing XP Surveys or Aura, but we're looking at the service in the process. And then last but not least, we have the lettings and management and terming of that, which is letting to social housing or private renting or whatever that may be, asset management, etc. But that's the ecosystem, the cycle. We talk about vertical integrations. We're quite a small outfit to be doing these vertical integrations. A lot of national home builders own their own quarries, own their own brick plants, own their own cement mortar factories. We like to fold other businesses into ours, which has benefits and negatives, but there's definitely benefits on the upside in our opinion. Cool, let's get cracking with XP Surveys. So this is actually a screen grab from our old website, which is pretty cool. So I believe to this day, until we're potentially proven wrong, I think we're the only company in the UK that have an automated quotation tool for topographical and measured building surveys. We've obviously only been in this space for about half a dozen years, but we've looked at it through a lens of a customer consumer, and we were the people typically instructing surveys. So we've adapted everything, all the pain points that we felt that surveying companies that were giving us these services and this product were failing on, or that made it clunky or made it slow or made it costly, and adapt a business to basically counter all of those things. So for an example, we used to use a surveying company that would take about 3 to 4 weeks to turn around a job. If we've bought the site, our finance might be £8,000 a month. So the cost of that survey being expedited and slightly more expensive overall might not work out much more expensive. So that's why we set up XP Surveys. Now some cool stats. So the things that you can see on the screen is 2026 surveys that we've done. A lot of people think we are not a national business. I'll let you into a secret. We are. You'll see we've done surveys all the way down to Plymouth, all the way up to Leeds, all the way up to Norwich. And we do cover a large space. Our automated quotation tool uses AI to build an algorithm of our travel distance to site. So if you get a quote, someone that's far from where we're based, we actually have almost like satellite locations as well, it automatically embeds that cost into that quote. So we like to think that we're nationally and travel-wise very efficient. And on the right-hand side of the screen, if you are watching this on Spotify, this is quite a visual episode. I'll do my best to explain it for listeners, but I would recommend you just go and watch it on YouTube. So what we're sharing here is the performance from June to December last year to Jan to July this year. So splitting the years in two halves, and to show you how much we have grown. Our revenue, our turnover revenue for the period last was 230,000. This last 6 months, we're almost at 300. It's 273K, which is 20% growth in a 6-month period. A lot of people say with an established business, any growth in excess of 10% is unhealthy. We're not massive believers in that, and we've gone against the grain and also proven that wrong in many ways. But 20% growth over 6 months is amazing. So kudos to the team. Now, this stat is even more impressive. Over that last 6-month period, we've had a 70% increase in gross profit. I haven't put the figures in there because why should we be sharing all the secrets? But the percentage is in there. So you can see that our GP margin has gone up 70%. You might be asking yourself the question, why? How the hell have we managed to increase our gross profit margin by 70% in the last 6 months? Well, I'll tell you why. And there's actually a slide coming up later about critical mass and efficiencies of size. So every business operates really, really well at a certain size until you scale it to the next level. We've built a business in this instance that's a very systematic, cookie cutter, process driven business. So the bigger you manage to build that sort of use and efficiency of what you're doing, the more profit you make. So to give you an example of that, one of my favorite analogies of this is the hotel model. So if you have a hotel and it's a 50-bed hotel, for an example, you have fixed costs. So that's not factored into a gross profit margin. Your fixed costs are what it costs you if you rent one room a month or 50 rooms every day in the month. So the ratio of that fixed cost stays the same. But what you will find is as you become more used and operational, more efficiency, your gross profit is actually the cost of you delivering that survey prior to your fixed cost. So your variable cost to deliver. The benefit that we have had is that revenue increase that we have managed to secure in the market space, that 20% increase. Our margin on that additional, 50K, is going to be greater than the margin we've already made on the rest of the revenue. And the reason being, we might be able to double up surveys during the day. The kit is more efficient. The team are more efficient. There's more work and continuity for them to be moving on to. And we just have more of a handle to proceed at capacity. So if I give you the example of the hotel as an example, 50 beds, 70% occupancy, there might be a fairly okay gross profit margin, but you do get the economies of scale of revenue. If you then take that to 95% occupancy, your gross profit margin does massively change and increase. It's almost like a sliding scale up to 100% capacity on that, what you would call vacancy rate against the operational output of a business. So really, really good. Now looking at where our jobs are secured. So we've won 113 deals the previous 6 months, and then this 6 months is 158. So a lot more instructions. And actually, if you look at the revenue growth relativity, a lot of our projects in the last 6 months were larger. So a larger weight of value in those projects. So we might have had a lot more projects to do. But we've definitely dialed down the efficiency, which is the operational team doing really well. I will say that operational team is targeted slightly on a performance basis. And in the last 6 months, we have paid out performance bonuses to them. So it's great to see the incentives in place and also, to ensure that they are on the same page as us and working with us as the founders to see that vision and create results. So 40% more instructions in the last 6 months. That's crazy. Going on to where that has come from. Previously, we did 43 deals with new business and 70 deals with existing business. That's a 62-38 split. And obviously, our clients absolutely love us because that has increased massively to existing business to an 81% ratio. So what that may mean is we're delivering a much better operational service for our existing client base. Really, really important. Repeat business is the best business. And as a result, we are getting more business through our existing network. Now, interestingly, we've closed less new business. So 43 instructions on the last 6 months versus 30 instructions in this month, 6 months. And actually, now we've actually onboarded more of a sales team focus. We've got a new sales guy that actually joined us, I think, in the last 6 months. And obviously, the whole goal of that is to improve our retention rate for our existing business client database. So that is keep your retention, but then also drive new business into that. So that also feeds into, ideally, bolstering the growth of existing business. What is the benefit to existing business? You know them, they know you. Hopefully you can make them a sticky client. You also have the benefit that there typically isn't a cost per acquisition for that client. A cost per acquisition is what it costs you to win a client. And also there's routine inbound leads and business. And the typical client that we like to work with is architects. They have routine work. They need to do 3 to 10 surveys a month. And we hope that we win the majority of that, if not all of them. And that's kind of a really good place to be in. Also, some top news, sort of forced hand, really. We had a Trimble X7, which is a really, really, really good bit of kit, but it does have a bigger brother now. Well, a newer brother that's bigger and better, which is the X9. So we now have in-house an X7 and an X9 bit of kit, which is really good. The reason we actually had to buy the X9 is because we had an accident and broke the X7, but we've now got the X7 fixed and the X9 in-house. So we've got 2 bits of kit. Ideally, we want that kit maximal utilization. So we want that both bits of kit out twice a day if we can, maybe even a third job if it's a small job, but it's all about efficiency. Cool, got first question in. Thanks, Jordan. Great stuff, Jack. Are you considering buying local surveying businesses and rolling out your systems? Really, really good question. Jordan, you'll actually see from the coming slides of how detailed our AI platform is that we've built. Well, I'm just taking credit for something that wasn't created by me there, that the team and Ben and Trevor have focused very heavily on. And I do believe that in the background, we are probably the most efficient surveying company in the UK from almost like CRM all the way through to survey production process. And there would obviously be huge value in either buying local businesses and integrating that operational overhead. So that what that would mean is that then 50-bed hotel would turn into a 500-bed hotel with the same fixed overheads, or we then roll it out as a software as a service. Big topics in XP surveys at the moment. Which direction do we go in? We've built something that's amazing, tried and tested. We're the sole user. It's so smart. It does a lot of our work for us. It probably has replaced 2 employees if it really was used at full capacity in the next few months, and could continue growing. This platform really can have every survey in the UK running through it. So, we set ambitions high, as you probably know. I suppose the downsides of looking at local surveying businesses is ideally we would love to buy surveying businesses, but there's 2 things. One, funding, and how difficult that is to get business funding to buy companies. So a lot of those structures are typically, structured buyouts or, schemes where you work your equity through and you actually pay down over a few years. That's one fold. And second fold, we want to be big enough to buy outfits that have its own, it's just big enough that a lot of surveying companies in the UK are either one-man bands or nationals. And really, we want to be buying in the nationals, and we're not as big as them yet. So we want to really grow our market share and do what we're doing and prove our model and keep scaling our business as we are. Because the one-man bands, the problem is when you buy those businesses, Jeffrey, the 70-year-old surveyor that loves what he did, and really life is coming towards retirement for them. As soon as they leave the business, the sort of goodwill and the book that you're working with might also fall away. So it's very difficult to buy businesses where it's a key person that's in that business. So we basically need to grow to get bigger and do that. Hopefully that answers your question. but in concept we would. So we've had way more jobs, 40% more jobs. We've done 145 drawings, so very little we've had to outsource, and I'll come on to that a little bit more later. We're averaging about 10 days turnaround, which is really strong in the marketplace. I know that may sound like a really long period of time, but actually a lot of our turnaround time frames are dependent on the client coming back and feeding where they want the sections drawn through. Also, how urgently the client needs them. So sometimes we actually don't push through drawings unless they're expedited. So within that, we actually have a product where we have a fast, quick, it's called quick turnaround, slight premium to it, but obviously makes us produce things quicker. And then last but not least, we've taken our utilization from 55% output to 71%. So amazing work by the team. Cool, onto the portal. So this was kind of like the pilot, the old style that we were running with. The reason that we decided to create a portal was the vision that we paid for a CRM, we paid for a project management tool, we pay for Xero, we pay for, well, actually, our Google Suites is free, but we use the calendar, the email service, the database through Gmail, and we wanted to bring it all in one place and utilize all of those things through one API so that we had our own very efficient system. In addition to bringing those things all into one place, some things like Xero are just better than anything that we could create from an accounting and finance and software perspective. So we do just integrate that into our portal. What we might not integrate is things that we can actually make from scratch. So what you're looking at is the old style. This is the new style. So it's refined, it's streamlined, it's ultra efficient. So if you're looking, we've got a Kanban style for our projects. We also have the percentage loading of how much of that has been drawn, which is all AI gathered. We have billing. So we have a little Xero box at the top left to show what our revenues are, what our new business ratios are. We have where the kit is, how efficiently the kit's been used. We have our efficiencies in drawings, our average deal size, all of this all on one page. And it's really, really efficient to look through the project and to manage the project all the way through end to end. And the beauty of this is essentially we have our interface as a company, an operational company that can see all of this, but our clients also have their interface, which allows them to come into the portal, ask questions, potentially use our chatbot if they've got any specific questions that could be answered there and then, or FAQs. They can access their drawings on the portal. They can make comments. They can feed back to us. They can actually see ortho 3D images through that. So super, super intelligent, which is, definitely kudos to Trevor getting really stuck into this, which is great. We also have basically integrated so much property data into the platform. So there's obviously other tools out there in the market that you would pay a subscription to utilize this and do this. And there's, I can name a dozen that I've paid subscriptions for years. But when an architect is pulling together a feasibility quote, pulling together a feasibility and a quote for a client, they typically pay a subscription for that external third-party product. So what Trevor has cleverly done is built that within our platform so that when an architect is coming into this, they can see the typical, the EPC rating, the site area, the floor area, the garden area, the property type, the building height, what the roofs are like, the distance it is from our HQ. It even tells them potential planning constraints. It outlines the building. It does various different things to show outbuildings. And we fetch all this data from various different sources. But what we have enabled is those architects and our clients that are using those third-party platforms at £100 a month to just come into our platform and use that completely free. So if you would like to be on the platform, DM be on the platform, or Jack sounds like a great idea. So onto our quoting system. So I mentioned that I believe, unless we're told otherwise, we're still the only company in the UK that have gotten off their arse and built an AI algorithm tool that's actually that's fed off rich data, i.e. current data and current efficiencies. And our old tool was basically this. You search your postcode, you click the type of products that you want, and that has massively progressed. We basically have massively pushed that on. So when you're actually looking at the property, there's a lot more of an interface, an image, insights, EPC data, ordnance survey data. You can select your specific services that you would like to do on that, whether it's a full survey, measured building survey only, topo only, or a custom pick of what you would like to do. You then select the type of outputs that you want, and you can go through and create a quote, and it produces a full report. And the booking system is obviously fed into that. If you then need to send that quote on to a client, so let's say you're a structural engineer or an architect, you can actually utilize this, print it off as a PDF and send this to a client. It looks extremely professional. We can also white label it for you. And then also what's a really cool factor is we are more than happy to pay commission on people that bring us a survey. So if you bring us that instruction, we are more than happy to, one, pay a commission fee, or two, have a discount for that introducer. So we can automatically apply that into your portal so you can see your commission structure scaling on the platform, which is really cool. Our client maps have been updated. So if people have got projects, it's basically a home base for them to look at through the projects that they're working on, to keep their own base through our platform. We also have an AI scheduler that feeds into the portal, which is actually fed off people's calendars. And the beauty of this is it doesn't take much thought process for the team. Well, none at all. The AI platform really live routes and thinks about who's fastest to get to the site. Can we do multiple jobs on that day? What bit of kit do we need? Let's get the job done. So that AI scheduler is next level and really, really, really intelligent, and saves anyone in the office having to do it themselves. We've then got WhatsApp prompts that send out immediate prompts to our surveyors. So when a job is booked in and it's been assigned to a surveyor, it will send them an overview of the project, make sure they understand every detail, how to get access to the property, who they can call if they can't get access to the property, what time do they need to be there, what is the actual map location which comes through on WhatsApp, what exactly needs to be measured, what is the job scope, because some of our clients might want scope of neighboring properties and neighboring windows, and that is obviously a lot more work that the surveyor will need to know to carry out on site. So it's a very low error way of managing things. It's nice and easy. All of our surveyors have WhatsApp. Quite obviously, everyone in this world has WhatsApp now. Weirdly, apart from the Americans, they still love iMessage. Don't know why. But it's a great little tool that automates all of that process. So now our business manager doesn't need to speak to the person that's won the job to pull it through, to then speak to the surveyors. It's all completely automated, which saves us time and value. And I guess what we're getting to with all of this is one of the reasons that this is great for people out there that might use us as a service. Every time we're crunching down our overheads and our costs to run these businesses, run this business and run these jobs, the essentially the lower we can price our surveys. So we're slowly getting to a place where we're like hopefully going to be the Tesla of the car market, where they're cheaper than everyone else, but their product quality is in line with some of the industry leaders. And that is because they're super, super efficient. For a consumer and a buyer, that's great because you're benefiting from a higher quality product for a lower cost just because the company you're working with is efficient. We also, whenever we do a job, the typical output is, obviously we're a measured building and topographical surveying business. We typically do the as-built drawings that architects then take and submit to planning, but obviously redesign in a DWG, 2D or 3D format to achieve planning permission on a proposed design. Once we produce that proposed design, we also upload photos of the site visits so that all of the clients can actually get a suite of photos that were taken on the day, which is super, super useful, such as manhole locations, certain boxing locations, where is the outlets for the waste and various things like that you might not be able to visualize from a CAD drawing, but you can visualize from walking through the building. Obviously, we have a 360 Matterport virtual tour kit, but that's a specific 3D virtual tour, which people might not want to pay for the additional cost. It's only cheap. It's only a few £100 maximum on most houses. But these suite of photos is automated for the surveyors as well. So the client have a end of their portal, and essentially they're just looking at the portal from a different light. So it integrates and feeds into a lot of things that we look at. I've just got another message from Jordan. Portal looks very impressive. Thank you, mate. And obviously, we've adapted this to make their life easier. So this was V1, and now we've definitely made it more seamless, more information heavy. It talks about proposed dates, survey dates, output ETA dates. It's got the loading schedule that we have on our side to show them how close to that project is being done. So they don't need to email us to say, how are you getting on with the survey? They can actually see a loading bar, full exposure on our side, but they can see a loading bar of how that project is progressing, which is really, really cool. Also, what you can see at the top, which I touched on, which is the portal rewards and architect referrals. If you guys are out there and you know people that book measured surveys, we pay you because it costs us in advertising, PPC, sales teams in-house, and sales commission. So we want to spread our wings and really utilize our network to try and win more business and grow the business through our network. And actually the benefit of that is you get paid for instructions that you bring our way. A typical fee could be like 5%. It all depends on the job, the client, the relationship, and what is required. But that can rack up to be quite chunky fees. We've actually looked at one of our introducers, and they're I believe they've already hit tens of thousands in commission for referral, and that alone for their fee. So how the architects see the projects, obviously we've talked through the property data that we go to the extent of. You can actually see the output drawings. Obviously that's a downloadable file in multiple ways. You can actually submit the section locations here. You can actually look at the documents, so the invoices that have been charged, the quote that was originally sent. It's all in one place. That drawing interface, you can actually go into that. One thing that's really cool is I do not have a CAD portal access or subscription, but our portal allows you to go in and have a look at these drawings without having to have that. So if you've never been able to get into DWG files, our portal allows you to do that in the URL portal interface, which is super, super cool. We've talked about the property data and how that's really useful. EPC data, property details data, when it was built, what type of building it is, brick or stone or flint or whatever it may be. Legal and planning constraints, land registry, flood risk, planning history. All of these details can actually be downloadable in a report, which we can white label with your branding on it so that you can send it to a client and look really professional, which is really, really cool. There's also suggestions of costing things to do with the EPC. There's also all of the planning constraints, so tree preservations, flood risk, green belt, conservation area. All of this is factored in this interface. Obviously, if most of our clients are developers or architects in this business, we want to make their life as easy as possible, and that is why that part is pretty cool. The new booking system we've got is the clients that we're working with can actually automatically book themselves in to the calendar, which is proposal sent, awaiting instruction. As soon as the instruction fee's paid, we can actually automatically book that in once the invoice is paid, which is super efficient. We also have communications on the portal. So you can basically, we can discuss internally, clients can communicate with us. We also have a chatbot that can answer questions. And obviously, if you've got a question, if we have a mobile app, we certainly do it, showing on the screen there, which is pretty cool. Off the portal stuff, I hope that was really interesting. And I love going through this portal stuff. There's actually quite a few people in the businesses that can't believe how crazily that portal has come on and how intelligent it is. It's doing so much work for us in the background. And maybe if you're in a service-based business or a product business or in property, you could think about what could you do to create something like this to be a really good hub, employee, systemization, thought thinker, and process to drive better results for the business. I think that AI at the moment is quite a difficult space to build a product that increases value, but I think is a really easy way to cut costs and cut overheads. So be thinking about that in your business. And if you've got any questions on our portal, do let us know. If it's too technical, I might push you towards Trevor. But if you ask a question live, then I'm stuck anyway. So this graph is actually not to accuracy. It's basically an example of what we're trying to theoretically achieve with XP surveys. And the reason we put this in here is because for the first 3 years of XP surveys, believe it or not, shock horror, we were losing money. We were not making a profit in that business. So 3 years of operating the business, and well, actually, it was probably more like 4, to be fair. 4 years of operating that business, and there was no profit. But the reason that we wanted to show this graph is that's unmotivating. That's really difficult for the team to stay focused, stay functioned, build efficiency, get 1% better every day, and to stay on the path of greatness. So what we did is we showed this graph, which is basically, I talked about the revenue marker for the size of your business and the critical mass. Now, what I mean by that is if you look at a one-man band handyman, he's not going to be able to do £500,000 worth of revenue per year because it's just him. If he has lads that work underneath him and he's off the tools, his critical mass is probably going to have to be 5 or 6 handymen to manage bringing in enough revenue to cover his costs to manage them. If he had one person he's managing, it's pointless him doing that. So he would be in a loss-making process, hiring someone just to have one person in and managing that. So the whole point of this graph is sometimes you have to go through times of losses and tough growth periods to make a profit. And we did this more for the mental sanity to show the team this can work. And believe it or not, we showed them this 4 years in the running in these reviews. So if we did 2 reviews a year, that's 8 reviews where we're showing them we're making a loss, but stick with it, trust the process. And now we're out of the woods. So last year we made a decent net profit and paid tax on it, which was a shame. And this year it's only going to get better. So that was 3 years of growth in that critical mass. And we've had that because we are you could call small to medium enterprise. So we'd build the foundations of a business that needs to be turning over a certain amount of revenue to make a profit. If you are a one-man band, you might make profit day one. In actual fact, I think we did make profit year one because we had about 100 grand's worth of business in revenue, but very low overheads. As soon as we started bolstering that growth, which you can actually see there, the profit marker, which is green, is above the red line. But as you go through this growth pattern, revenue increases, efficiency increases, profit increases, and costs stay fairly consistent. So that cost level is more of a fixed cost level, but it's really interesting to look at the growth period that you need to focus on and sticking with it. It's a trust the process. You might not see changes tomorrow, but they will be coming. Now we're out of that position. It's obviously really nice to be able to look back at that, congratulate everyone in the team for years of hard work and trusting the process and trusting us. And it's been the sort of turn of the century, really. It's been really satisfying to put a theoretical process into reality and to go through the tough times of year in, year out losing money, which no one wants to be in business for, do they? So I showed a graph there of where we were last time and where we were today. On a marketing front, this is just a bit about SEO and how we focus heavily on boosting our performance for where we rank on Google and SEO checks. So you probably can't actually see it because it's too small, but back in December last year, we were ranking at the very, very lowest on Google for 7th for topographical. Now we are first for, loads: topographical survey, topographical measured building survey, measured building survey again. And our rankings have definitely bolstered and grown. So a lot of our SEO, we actually have a full-time in-house SEO consultant who is called Marcin. He works across XP Surveys and Aura. So this is just sharing the team what he is working on. Now, big news. We are foraying into building an offshore CAD team, basically an overseas drawing team. And you might be thinking, Jack, why are you driving? Well, Jack and Ben and Trevor and others and Lucas, why are you driving revenue across to an offshore position? Now, we have tried twice, great length, probably over an hour, not an hour's, a year's worth of hours to try and build an outsourcing program and relationship with an Indian-based drawing team. The reason we did that is because the drawing is fairly straightforward. That you do have to be well versed in CAD drafting work, but it is fairly straightforward once you've got the output from the site visit. And we obviously have the team and capacity in-house to do the quality control checks that we need to prior to sending it to a client. We didn't have any luck with the Indian teams. We actually felt by the time all the back and forward was going back and forward, by the time they were making the same mistakes over and over again, and they don't understand UK building. So we did struggle with that potential outsource. And as a result, we decided to bring it all back in-house. One of the reasons that the I suppose the quality wasn't there is because we weren't running that business. They weren't working through our MO sheet. They were doing their own procedures, and we want to take control of that. So we're currently in the process in exploring setting up a team overseas. They will be testing out on some projects with XP Surveys as we grow it. We're not trying to take over the world with this, but we'll take it step by step, and it will just start with one hire. We actually already have some UK-based outsourced CAD technicians. So what that means is we go to site, we scan the site, we bring it back to the office, we post-process it. Obviously, we've won the business, we know the client, and we then have trusted, reliable consultants that work ad hoc when we're super busy to make sure our turnaround times are best for clients. And we're basically trying to build that into a product process, so a process that we can follow and trust, to have that in a different country. And there's many benefits to that. You might have a time difference, so we can actually draw for more hours on the UK clock. That might be that there's a lower cost of living over there, so the salaries to pay those people to do quite the drawing work is the bigger bulk of the work. In reality, if you go to site and scan for a day, you might be drawing for 3 days. So the cost of labor might be cheaper. And also it adds another string to our bow, and we can actually take on other clients' work as well. So not only will they be potentially a key fundamental part of XP Surveys drawings, but that company could also draw for other surveying companies in the UK as well. Cool. I've only got 20 minutes, but I think that should be long enough for Central Suites. I won't take it too long because my stomach is starting to rumble, starting to get a bit peckish. Anyway, Central Suites. So I have a younger brother. The news is out. He's called Rob. Although he's younger, a lot of people think he looks older. But we decided to set up a business together about 8 or 9 years ago, off the back of both of us liking HMOs, both of us being in property. Our father was in property and construction all his life, and our grandfather on the other side was in property and construction all his life. A lot of thing about business partnership is trust is very key. Obviously, that's pretty ornate with brotherhood, although there's that obvious brotherly love within any operational business. So we set up Central Suites, and the main actual reason behind it was because both of us lived in HMOs at university. I went to Oxford Brookes and lived in Oxford, and he went to Bristol UE and stayed in Bristol. So he didn't have one up on me to not go to the Polytechnic, although he probably did a slightly better degree. And we both thought our houses were crap, so we decided to build a professional process for professional HMOs, essentially, and it's called Central Suites. The name Central Suites actually came around because we were looking at doing Airbnb and short lets and service accommodation, and then we just kept the name. We quite liked it, which is that's Central Suites. Our tagline is building a powerful community, one home at a time. Probably AI and probably quite cringy, but there you go. So it's a small team, which is an estate manager, Rob running most of the lettings and ops day to day, me in the acquisitions and sort of funding management, I suppose, a little bit of project management. Jay is, she started as a media and marketing young lady, and now she's grown into being like heavily into the ops and tenant management, a lot of the business systems, which is really great. And then we also have Finn, who is basically PM and acquisitions, who was a intern, but is hopefully staying with us full time. So what do? We buy houses. So the way I always tell people that don't know what Central Suites or XP Property do is if it's two units or above, it's typically XP Property, and if it's 1 unit, Central Suites will probably be doing that project. In Central Suites, we flip houses, we build HMOs, and we manage all of XP Property stock as well as almost like a lettings agent. And that's fundamentally it. I suppose it's probably worthwhile saying what type of stock. So the houses that we like buying are shitholes that need a lot of value add and bringing it back to life. And that's both hand in hand for flipping houses or keeping them as HMOs. Our flips are typically distressed sellers, tired, structural problems. We like to try and get in and out in 6 months if we can. And it's great because it generates lumpy cash flow for the business. I'm going to make this full screen so you can actually see on the top of the screen there, that's the before of a project that we did, and the below is the afters of houses, plural, that we flipped. This is actually sharing with the team some void. We had quite a hefty void period, and I think it was because we had 3 properties launched to market all at the same time. And what we like to do with our team is actually write down the cost revenue, the revenue marker that we're missing out on per month by not getting these rooms let, because it obviously is huge figures. So on the 15th of Jan, we were losing 20 grand a month in void. 17th of Feb, it was 17 grand. So we only decreased that by about, 15%? And now we're up to 2 voids across the portfolio. So great work by the lettings team to really pick up that inertia of those projects that launched to market. I've actually got a question come in. Jack, what process do you use for vetting tenants? Good question, Amit. Thank you. It's not actually my job to do the tenant management and the letting stuff. But I do know that we do all of our processes through Good Lord. So we have a process where the tenant goes through the application process. They typically lodge a deposit, and then they go through the referencing process to take the room through Good Lord. So that's typically what we use. I think Good Lord use a third party that do their own referencing off the back of that. Cool. So what projects have we been working on? So Bath Street, which is that really nice sort of sandstone front one, which is going to be a 6-bedroom, 4-bathroom HMO, is currently in delivery. We've recently come off the back of quite a few projects that have come to an end. So Rotten Row, Dorchester, which was a house we flipped. I'll come on to that. Edward Street, and again, I'll come on to that. Martin Street, again, I'll come on to that. Marketplace, which was our grade 2 listed 7-bed HMO, which we finished and fully let. And then Hemdean Road in Caversham, which was a 6-bed, 4-bath that we finished and fully let. And we've actually handed quite a lot of rent. We did a few rent-to-rents to help bolster our cash flow in the business in the early years. We've actually started handing those back for 2 reasons. One, we don't think the Renters' Right Act is very forgiving for rent-to-rent. So that's when you're in a contract with a property you don't own and a ultimate renter. So there's 2 contracts there. We think it's pretty messy in that capacity. And then 2, we don't like working with landlords that are reluctant to put their hand in their pocket and up their own rents and reduce their void rates. We like having control over our assets. We think a good product lets well and is always let. So that is our focus. And we find that blurs with other objectives of landlords if they don't agree with that. So Bath Street, you can see this one. So this was a project XP surveyed. Heritage Architect got the planning. It's going to be a 6-bedroom HMO. You can see the works there. So this is current to show everyone where we're at. We had to demolish a rear extension, which the previous owner had erected without the relevant listed building consent. So we secured the relevant listed building consent to replace it, regularized that application, and are now delivering it. As a result, we bought it at a marginal discount, I would say. I wouldn't say it was an unearthly discount, but a good buy nonetheless. This was the project in Dorchester-on-Thames, which is a house we flipped. The left is the afters, the right is the befores. Doesn't really look like much has changed, but if you look at the bottom left of the photo, you will see that we've massively overhauled the timber structure. The front wall was structurally not great, but we basically started it game from scratch, took it all apart and put it back together so that it's really good condition now. So we sold that. Really good project, really good turnaround, really good relationship we built off this project as the first one with our investor, and they were pleased with how we turned it around. These are the insides, which obviously helped it sell. This actually sold for £800,000, this house. Big chunky one. Edward Street. So this is a 7-bedroom, 7-bathroom HMO in Abingdon. You can see the sort of design internal. We actually did a 10-meter, almost 10-meter extension in the rear. The living kitchen space is like 35 meters squared, which is huge. It's the same size as a studio flat. And the bedrooms are lovely. This is a really, really good house. And actually, I think going to be our best that we've done to date, maybe an award-winning one. So who will know? We'll have to get it submitted. Martin Street is a shop and upper in Oxfordshire that we sold the ground floor and then converted the upstairs to a HMO. Another great project. Also good to show the team because XP Surveys again surveyed it, did the maths report for us, etc. And Central Suites did a brilliant job delivering that. This was our greatly listed building that is a 7-bedroom, 5-bathroom HMO in Oxfordshire as well. This was the one in Caversham, 6-bed, 4-bath. Again, this one is really, really nice finish. So you can sort of see the middle bottom there, the sort of really high quality finish that we go for. This was a collaboration between XP Property and Central Suite. So I mentioned that we manage XP Property's stock, and that is because XP isn't built up for it. We don't have all the relevant things that you need to be an agent, basically, but Central Suites does. We finished a cluster flat development of 5 flats, and Central Suites managed to achieve 6.34% revenue uplift against our expected figures on the beginning. Also, a fun fact on this project is my brother did a reel on TikTok and Instagram, and on Instagram, it got 1.5 million views, which is good fun. So if you haven't already, check out Central Suites' Instagram profile and go and watch and see why that video got so many views. So what's next? What's next for Central Suite? So we love doing flips. We love doing HMOs, but the fundamental is we've built a really good, solid sound, well-processed business. But the limitation to us growing our portfolio is our own capital. We haven't got money, rolling out of our ears. It does take a while to accumulate revenue into profit, into deposits to buy more. So what we have launched, and we've now got 3 successful partnerships, is a portfolio builder product. What that is we co-own the portfolio together. We build it, you invest, and we basically do it all for you, and you benefit from the fact that we've been doing this for years. And my argument is there's a very strong likelihood, not definite likelihood, but a very strong likelihood that if you share a portfolio with us, I'd like to think the value that we add outweighs the sharing part of it. So why not have a bigger slice of a bigger pie, because we've created so much value. If you want to actually see our portfolio builder deck, let us know. We are open for business. We think HMOs are great. It's very succinct in there and explains the returns that we look to offer within the portfolio builder itself. You might have actually seen this. So that is Central Suites, door closed. See you later. Done. Moved on. So XP Surveys and Central Suites done. We are now at the back end of the presentation and got nothing to do with any of the businesses, but actually talking through our core values. For new members that join these sessions, they might not know what our core values are. Now, I'm not a massive believer of pushing agenda on a team, because you have goals as a company, which is cool. And that's really imperative for them to help deliver those goals. Otherwise, they don't get paid their salaries. So that's one thing. Second thing is they have their own job description. They have a really clear, hopefully, action plan of what they need to deliver in their role to be a fundamental part of the business and the reason you hired them. And that's really cool. But the last thing is, when I did my Goldman Sachs course, they said you need to have company values. You need to have core values. And I didn't really want to push that on a team. So what we actually did in one of our sessions is just pushed it onto the team and said, what do you think our business is in terms of a values place? So everyone got 3 sticky notes. They wrote down 3 things that they thought were really important to our business and how they feel about our company. Bearing in mind, what is absolutely astonishing about this in its entirety is this is 4 different companies, 4 different leadership levels, 4 different service levels, 4 really, different skill sets, different personalities. Obviously, we're all under the same roof, but everyone in the company did actually agree on 3 things which kept recurring, which is ambitious, creative, and transparent, which we love and we adopted. So basically, those core values are self-driven from the ground up and from our team members. So absolutely love that. And that is it for today's episode. I am now open for business if there's any other questions. Thank you, Jordan, for your 2 questions today, and Amit for your question. Please do fire our questions. I think there was a bit of a delay, so quickly, keyboard warrior that question over. Good, bad, or ugly. I'd love to try and answer it. But if I don't hear anything in the next 20 seconds, I will call it a day. I forgot to actually put my camera back on, which isn't very clever. But hopefully that was an enjoyable session. Hopefully you got to see how our review sessions work and learn a little bit more about our business. Obviously, we've shared little bits on the portal in historic episodes, but it's pretty cool. I think that's like a really cool thing that we've got going on. Amit has sent in a comment or a question. Thank you very much, Amit. Thank you for the session. Great stuff. Always thank you for listening, guys. Really, really appreciate it. I think that is me done now. My stomach is still grumbling. And I am going to go away and Google the word. What I was trying to say is something like chronological or chronologically. The one I was trying to say earlier. I'm actually going to look that up and see how I should have pronounced that word. And maybe what I do, because I'm dyslexic when I can't say words, is just find another word that has the same meaning and use that one instead. Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much for everyone for watching. Make sure you share this episode with someone that you feel would benefit from it. Make sure you ask those questions between now and next week, because we will come to them next week. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you, if you are watching this on Spotify, come and watch it on YouTube. There's a lot of visual stuff that we've actually shared. And thank you once again to everyone that listens in and tunes into this every week, and have a great weekend. Okay, bye.